How's it going, everyone? I'm Josh from Elder Drunken Highlander, and today I'm coming to you with a deck tech video. It's a little bit different than what we've normally done. This is a paper deck tech video, something that was suggested by some of the people on our Discord. So if you want to get on our Discord and suggest things that I end up impromptu doing for videos the same day that you suggest them, get on the Discord, talk to us. We're gonna be going over my oldest, my oldest current EDH deck. This was the third EDH deck I ever built. My first deck was Dak and Blackblade. My second deck was Shieldred the Whispering One. They were both kind of bad. This was my third attempt at making an EDH deck that was still kind of bad, but I stuck with it. I've been upgrading it since 2011. It is also the reason I really wanted to show the paper deck tech for this deck is it's still in its original sleeves for when I bought it. I have no idea what brand they are. They're Japanese, so I didn't know when I bought them. The guy at the card shop just recommended me the sleeves because they don't break, and he was right. I still have every single one of those sleeves. Haven't split one yet. So this is Marath. This is my commander for my deck. Originally, the commander of this deck was Rith the Awakener. When Marath got printed, I was like, well, that's just better, so I switched. So this is my Marath. This is how I keep all of my commanders. If you haven't seen this before on our socials or on our Discord, this is what all my commanders look like. I keep them in the hard sleeve. I alter. This is an alter sleeve, so it's put over there, and then I have another version of the card in the back so you can read the abilities. This deck is called that's the name of the deck. It's called originally it was called Rith's Token and Burn, which was, I don't know, it was an entertaining game name, but after that it became called Marath, or Marith the Awakener, or Marath the Awakener, to kind of combine the fact that Rith was like the secret commander and I tutored him into play a lot. I still do that, but now the deck is just called because what I like to do with this deck is I like to sit behind Marath, I like to sit behind my open mana, and I just like to hold Marath's ability up and blast things with it, or make tokens with it, or buff stuff and interact with the board. This is a deck that likes to sit back with its Marath gun cocked at the ready to use it whenever it needs to. It doesn't like to spend its mana on its turn, and I very much enjoyed the playstyle of it. So we're going to get into the deck really quick. We're going to start with each of the basic lands, and I'll just be spreading the whole thing out here so you guys can see all of it. So we're going to start with our basics. So a lot of these basics are the same basics that were in the deck when I first started playing it, not this one. I've been like swapping out some of them to make them look a little bit nicer, but you can see they don't match. I don't really care if they match. We only have 3 mountains too, because we don't have a lot of red in this deck. It's primarily a green-white deck. Then we have our plains. We'll just put them over the forest here so you can see them. And we're in special lands too. So these are our special lands here. We have quite a few of them. And you'll notice there are some questionable card choices in this deck. There are some seriously questionable card choices that I wouldn't have made if I built this deck now, but I don't like upgrading this deck a lot. I don't like changing it from its original spirit, its original form. So I got stuff like Jungle Shrine in here still, because Jungle Shrine was in the deck when I made the deck, and I like Jungle Shrine. I have Temple of Triumph. I own a Sacred Foundry. It's not in this deck because I like Temple of Triumph. It was in the deck when I made it. I packed this Temple of Triumph and I shoved it in here. I don't want to get rid of it. So there's a lot of card choices like that in here. I do want to point out the Arcane Lighthouse. That's very good with Marath being able to hit hexproof things. And I also want to point out the Kessig Wolf Run, which is a great outlet for our oodles of mana. There's a Gavany Township in here too. The Gavany Township is really nice also as a mana outlet. And then I also just want to point out this Evolving Wilds, because this is one of the first foil peels that I did that actually came out nice, and I'm so proud of it. All right, let's move on from our lands, shall we? Let's go to the next part. So next we're going to go over mana rocks. This deck has 37 lands, and it's got a ton of mana rocks too. Because Marath is basically an X spell in the command zone, our goal for this deck is just to make oodles and oodles and oodles of mana and just use it all the time, casting her, killing her, casting her, and killing her again. So we have a lot of mana rocks. And again, there are some unorthodox choices here that would have been like decent in 2011 when this deck got built, but are definitely not good here. So like Cold Steel Heart's definitely one of those, but the rest of the cards are pretty solid, I would say. Let's spread these guys out. There's another questionable card choice. Gilded Lotus isn't good anymore, is it? That's what I've heard. Chromatic Lantern, that's another one that's like... no one runs Chromatic Lantern anymore, right? That's what I hear. So these are my mana rocks. I have a lot of mana acceleration in this deck because I just want to cast Marath and use the ability and go with the gun. That's what I want to do. That's all I want to do. So we have tons of mana, so we can just enable ourselves to do that, get the lands out of our deck, keep going, keep going. The other thing is this is a bit of an Avenger of Zendikar deck, as in like Avenger of Zendikar in the deck. I don't really focus on it, but like he's there, so having more lands is good for that too. And then I have the artifact ramp as well because I like to diversify my ramp. There's a point where people were playing land destruction in my meta. I was one of those people, and the artifact ramp diversity was good. I just never bothered switching. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 mana accelerants in this deck. So more than 50% of the deck, 57 cards in this deck are dedicated to making mana in some way, shape, and or form, which is one of the reasons I like playing it so much. It's just so smooth and consistent because this lady is always going to be able to get cast for like 10, 20, who cares? The next thing we're going to show off is our removal, and there's two very, very important cards that I want to showcase first. These guys. Giving Marath Death Touch is so good, and this dude can be tutored into play with a lot of tutors that we have in our deck that I'll show you later. Straight into play. Pairs with Marath. One of the spiciest plays you can do in this deck is convoking all your tokens for a Quarter Calling X equals 2, getting this guy, activating Marath, and machine gunning down your opponent's board, bam, 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 dealing 1 damage to everything with Death Touch, right, like in response to them attacking you. It's awesome, and it makes people absolutely hate your guts. These two cards are the reason the deck is named because in the last like year and a half, 2 years or so, I've just found myself tutoring for these every single game, sticking them on Marath, and then saying, oh, what the fuck are you gonna do about it? I have a fucking gun. So that is the whole point of this deck. Here's another questionable card choice that was good in 2011 when this deck was built, but is no longer played anymore. Does anyone even run Crows and Grip? Does anyone even run Acidic Slime anymore? Does anyone even run Return to Dust? Oh my god. Heliod's Intervention totally creeped this card out. There's our interaction suite. Not a ton because, again, Marath is Marath. She's going to kill creatures. So most of our interaction is not focused on creatures so much. It's focused on the artifacts and enchantments that could keep us down or help our opponents win. All right, next we're going to go for card advantage, tutors, and such. So you have a decent tutor suite in this deck because originally the purpose was just tutor Rift to the battlefield every single game. So you have quite a few. Here's another card that nobody runs anymore. And of course, we don't have a win off of Tooth and Nail. We're not going to cast Tooth and Nail and instantly win the game, but we can cast Tooth and Nail and probably win the game. That's how that works. So here's our tutor suite. Here's our draw cards. These are pretty self-explanatory. They do a great job at just getting us a ton of cards. Skull Clamp on Marath is just terrifying, and you should never let me resolve this card ever, ever, forever, never, ever. Eldritch Evolution largely just turns a token into Nightshade Peddler, which I think is awesome. It's so spicy. Recruit of the Guard finds Nightshade Peddler. Alter the Bone, sacrifice a token, get Nightshade Peddler. Quarter Calling, Nightshade Peddler. Eldromi's Call, end step for Nightshade Peddler. It's like first base Bugs Bunny, second base Bugs Bunny, third base Bugs Bunny, except it's Nightshade Peddler for all the tutors. That's what we do. Tooth and Nail is really the only tutor that's not getting Nightshade Peddler. It's going to get some of the fucking haymakers that we have coming up later in the deck. I'll show you this the last, though. The big creatures are last because they're the most fun. Let's move on to Instants and Sorceries. So we have a lot of Instants and Sorceries that generate large amounts of tokens. This helps us burn people out with Perforos, Impact Tremors, etc. That was the original purpose of this deck, was to Impact Tremors people to death. We also have our board wipes. These two board wipes, I don't have a ton of board wipes, only 2, because Marath, again, is a gun, so I generally don't need to control the board. And then this card is just hilarious. I know it's not a good win con. I know I could put in like a billion other things that are better, but fuck you, Infect's hilarious. I love it. It's awesome. It's so much fun to cast Triumph for the Hordes with like 5 tokens out and just make someone very upset. I very much enjoy it. That's the point of Magic, right? It's pissing off your friends. All right. Enchantments. So these are kind of like what makes the deck win harder. If I can stick literally just one of these enchantments, usually the game starts to go my way. There they are. The Dynamic Duo, Perforos and Impact Tremors, the bread and butter of any red token deck. I'd like to think that I was one of the first adopters of Perforos Impact Tremors. When Perforos got printed, this deck existed already, and I was like, that's a slam dunk. We need that in our deck. And I immediately snatched him up. Immediately traded for that sucker. So I'd like to think that I was like the OG Perforos user, Perforos enjoyer, right? This deck was built like literally like right before Theros came out, like a year before Theros came out. So it was fresh. It was fresh. Or before Perforos, this was what I used as my like main enchantment that I'd fetch for my main way of utilizing my Rift tokens, because Rift would get like 10 tokens at once. No more artifacts and enchantments, you losers. There's a lot of good stuff here. This one is really an underrated card. It really helps us find a lot of our really big creatures. We don't have a ton of creatures in this deck. They're all really good hits except for Birds of Paradise. So Evolutionary Leap, sacrifice a token, get something that'll probably win us the game eventually. Abundance is one of my favorite cards of all time. It prevents you from drawing out, which has been relevant for me many, many times, and also just lets you select your draws. With Skull Clamp, it's absolutely nuts. I really, really love Abundance. If anyone ever wheels while you have an Abundance in the field, you basically just win the game on the spot. It's awesome. I'm not a fan of Doubling Season normally. I don't like this card. I think it's too expensive. But in decks that use both counters and tokens, I think it's fine. So this is like literally, Marath is like one of the only decks that I think Doubling Season belongs in. If you're not playing like Marath or Gave, like, I don't know, there are very, very few commanders that I think you can run Doubling Season in and just not have it be a worse version of a card that already exists, honestly. Like, you could be on Hardened Scales or one of the other similar effects, or you could be on Anointed Procession or one of the other similar effects there and doing something cheaper for Doubling Season. So this is the last group of cards, and then we're done. These are the Haymakers. The motherfuckers. And Eternal Witness is here for some reason. The people that end the game and make my opponents go, oh crap, I should have saved my removal. These cards are absurd. We have 3 Praetors, or just kidding. We have 2 Praetors and a Chancellor, because Mono Red Perforos doesn't really do much for our deck. We don't need haste, and our opponent's creatures entering tap doesn't matter because we just kill them anyway. So we don't have him. But we do have the other 2. We got Vorinclex and we got Elishnorn. Vorinclex is a mana doubler, obviously very good to us with Marath. Elishnorn, obviously very good with tokens. Rada is another one that's very good with tokens. We can send all our tokens out and then use that mana to recast the Marath we just killed. Eternal Witness is like another tutor target similar to Nightshade Peddler. It's just to get things back, usually to get Nightshade Peddler back. Chance of the Forge is our best win harder card. The tokens have haste, so like this is usually the card that I cast to win the game most often, honestly. It's Chancellor of the Forge. Avengers Zendikar is just a worse version of Chancellor of the Forge in this deck. Rith the Awakener isn't even that good anymore, but I'm emotionally attached to him, like emotionally attached to him, so I refuse to cut this guy. He's just awesome. If you've never played a deck with this guy at the helm of it, highly recommend it. I sometimes swap him back into the command zone for this deck just because he's my baby, he's my child, and I love him. My only complaint about Rith the Awakener is after you hit someone for 6 once, you really don't want to kill the board with tokens. You want to hit someone for 6 3 more times and kill them. And like that's my complaint about Rith, is like I want to do more. I want to win twice with Rith, and I can only win once with Rith. So he's a very fun card. And that's it. That's the whole deck. Oh, this guy. We all know what this guy does. He lets me use Marath a lot. That's everything. So that's my oldest deck, the 3rd deck I ever built, and the only old deck of mine that I deemed good and or fun enough to keep around. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at my deck, my Marath the Awakener deck. It's my pride and joy. It's my baby. It's my child. I actually don't play it that much just because I feel like it's perfect, and like every time I play it, it goes exactly the way I want it to, and so I feel like I don't need to practice it. I don't need to whip it out. I'll show you guys the sleeves really quick before we go, because I did talk these up a little bit. I have no idea what brand these are. Absolutely no idea. So if anyone knows like what kind of sleeves these dudes are, they're Japanese, they're indestructible. These sleeves are literally from 2011 and they're totally fine. Let me know, because I kind of want more. I kind of want more of them. Like I can still shuffle like totally fine with these, and they are they're like ancient or whatever. They're older than most Magic players. Is that how that works? These sleeves remember OG Innistrad. That makes them a Magic boomer. That's how that works, right? All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this kind of deck tech. If you like this style of deck tech, this is actually extremely low effort and easy for me to record, and I have a metric buttload of paper decks. So if you actually enjoy this kind of deck tech, this is something that can happen a lot more often. We're super lazy right now. We're not going to bother with an end credit and opening anything. Yeah. Oh, I will be in PAX Unplugged tomorrow. If you somehow stuck around to the end of the video today, the video will be going up on today, Friday, December 10th. It's December 9th at like almost midnight right now. It'll be up at Friday, December 10th, and the next day on the 11th, I'll be at PAX Unplugged. So if you want to meet up with me at PAX Unplugged, hit me up on Discord. I'll do my best and try to hang out with anybody who watches the channel. Maybe we could play some Magic. Maybe we could talk some shit. Maybe you could tell me my decks are bad in person. Who knows? It's an endless world of possibilities. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, join our Discord so you can tell me to do stuff like this. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. Stay janky, my friends.